maybe 3 or 4 months ago, my neighbor over there was having some trees taken down, and I got the wood chips delivered, and it was, well, a larger pile. Now that the weather's cooler, I've finally started moving some of those out. And actually yesterday, while I was moving them, the same tree company had another load and just came down the driveway, I guess, looking to dump again. So, and that spot back there is still kind of occupied, so I've got another massive pile up at the very top end of the garden, but finally been spreading them around to smother some of these weeds, which won't last. Maybe will last for 1 year, but that area I actually did the exact same thing with maybe 2 years back, and it ends up just almost improving the soil fertility for all the weeds. This section's the one that I kind of redid just recently. So I did have like a plum, a really big peach in the middle, another plum. There was a nectarine there. Anyway, I ripped out all those prunus guys and got a European pear, Girardi mulberry, another dwarf everbearing mulberry, another European pear, and then I had some from weeding around these, not these particular gooseberries, but gooseberries in general. A lot of times they're kind of sprawly and they'll root themselves and kind of propagate themselves essentially. So I've got some gooseberries in the back that I had a bunch of just pots lying on the ground, and actually I have more gooseberries lying on the ground over there. But yeah, just weeding around gooseberries, they kind of like very readily propagate themselves. So slotted in some more of those, put some black raspberries in the front here. So yeah, this is sort of a newish section of, where I tore out some old stuff. I'm debating whether I want a walkway. I definitely could, Asian pear there and European pear, I could for sure have this be a walkway sort of to access the backside of these trees, and there's a black currant here. Anyway, kind of redid that section. I need to come through, and I see a red raspberry hanging out. There are still some not quite ripe, but edible, pretty delicious. Yeah, so finally starting to get caught up on some of these weedy sections. I need to go down these swales and rescue all these currants, and there's some honeyberries in here. I got to these black raspberries earlier today, kind of cleaned them up, and there was like one that had arced out into the path here. Moved him back into where he's supposed to be. Earlier in the week I harvested a bunch of beans. There were tons of, this is the Scarlet Runner bean, and this is like the second flush. I harvested some of those that were already dry. I forget what this guy is. Pretty little pink thing, or purplish. I'll plant those again. Anyway, a bunch of beans, and I already did one round of harvesting. This is all sort of a mess. These are asparagus plants. Potatoes are popping back up. Probably should have harvested them before they did that, but I guess I'll wait for them to finish that round of growth and then harvest them. What else? I weed whacked. Get off of me. Weed whacked these raised beds. They're a mess, but at least you can see what's sort of in them. There's nothing in them. I see some like fennel popping up and dock and other weedy things. Basil surprisingly doing pretty well for late October. Pretty crazy. And there's some tomatoes still. This is just a volunteer tomato. Here are the gooseberries I mentioned that while weeding today I found. What else? Some bell peppers. Okra gone to seed in a couple places. More peppers of some sort. I've got a bunch of Egyptian walking onions and garlic chives, allium stuff in here. Some strawberries I moved. A bunch of perennial, like onions for next year, bulbs planted in here. I cleaned out this pond a couple days ago. Cleaned the filter. And then Well, the greenhouse now has plastic on the front and back walls, and I'm thinking, I haven't fully figured it out, but once it gets properly cold, I'm gonna have to winterize the water system and empty the tank and whatnot, so I won't be able to water the stuff in here off the main hoses. So I got this tank that fits under this potting bench deal, and I'm thinking that once I put the plastic on the sides, and I'm gonna have it set up where like in the summer I can roll it up to this hip board, but from the hip board up it'll be permanent. But I'm thinking somehow I'm gonna have gutters or like something kind of on that hip board on the outside of the plastic to gather water, and it slopes downhill to the back here, and then it'll round the corner to a T and go down into that pipe there and then into the tank. And I guess I'm hoping that, well, if it gets properly cold, I can close the valve on the tank, you know, keep water in the tank, and open up that valve to drain off what's, you know, the standing water in this standpipe. So yeah, like when it's properly cold, I can have all the water inside the greenhouse, and hopefully it's warm enough in there that it doesn't freeze solid. And if it's just like sort of cold, I can just leave it all, you know, leave it. There'll be water in the standpipe, but that's fine. And then eventually on that, where the valve is connected to that 4x4, I'll have a garden hose attachment so I can just, with gravity flow, water stuff in here. I need to start harvesting from this. These are all brassica, brassica rapa, I guess. I don't know, various. This looks a whole lot like lettuce, but it's not. That's like Mizuna. Anyway, leafy greens that I need to start harvesting from, for sure, those guys. So that's sort of it. I don't know, just finally, now that the weather's nice, trying to catch up on weeding. These are supposed to be strawberries in here. They're in here. They just need a little love to get all this top layer stuff out. But they do all right. Even they're still growing fine. Just would benefit from a little weeding. Yeah, I'll cut it there. Beautiful, beautiful fall day though.